What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences. And more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends. Join us tonight because we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I'm Bryon Dembroski, and this is SuperAero Live. What's up, Av Geeks? How are you tonight? I hope you're good on this wonderful Wednesday. Hey, it's Wednesday, which can only mean one thing. SuperAero Live at, well, it's 8:39. It's 8:39 and 2:39 Zulu. Anyway, we're here, and I'm super pumped to have you all. I don't want to spend too much time talking about all the stuff that's important to me because we have 3 guests, which means we've got 3 times the content to get through tonight. But just go check out last week's show. It's kind of fun with Fly with the Guys. That was neat. And next week, I'm Mr. Chris Kringle over here. I got like a whole holiday show that I'm putting together. It's gonna be pretty cool. Got some special guests coming. It's gonna be pretty neat. So Christmas Eve, if you do that holiday, it's 2 Christmas Eves. Anyway, all right, guys, gals, we gotta talk about our awesome guest tonight, and I'm going to do my best to hit all the buttons and get everyone introduced. First of all, friend of the show, Savannah Ryskie is here. What's up, Savannah?
Hello. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, well, you made me cry last time, so we got to try again.
Heck yeah, I'm excited.
So we're gonna chat a bunch. Let me get your other co-stars on here. We've got Carolyn Landron is here. How you doing?
Hi.
First Officer Carolyn Landron. Check out that. We probably can tell what she does for a living with the heavy metal over her shoulder there. And then Jenn Pierce is here, and I gotta find the button for Jenn. There's Jenn. Hey, Jenn.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. Good to be here.
Awesome. So here, I'm gonna hit another button. Look at this is like live television. Oh, wrong button. Where is it? There it is, all 4 of us together.
Yay.
It's like Voltron. We combined. And so here's the deal, everyone. We're doing this panel tonight. Wanted to feature some amazing women in aviation. And separately from women in aviation, we have like the most amazing kind of cross-section of aviation right now between the 3 women on the show. But all of it tonight, one of the cool things we're doing is we're doing this as it was put together by Connie, who's in the chat somewhere, I'm sure. Connie pulled this together, and she's part of the Southeastern. It's like so specific. The Southeastern Wisconsin chapter of Women in Aviation. And so, if you guys want to support what Women in Aviation does, since they kind of pulled this all together, wait, I got to hit another button. Throughout the show, you guys can shoot Venmo donations to that extremely long email address. I checked it today. It is legit. It's just a lot of letters. So go. If you're into that, they could always use your support, especially in a year like this. I'm trying, folks. We're going to figure it out. Anyway, let's stop talking about me. Let's talk about our friends here. I'm going to get off the screen, and I think first we'll just do a little intros. Savannah, since we started with you, people might remember you, but if you want to give like a short 2-minute, like who you are, we can see it on the shirt. What's your thing?
I'm Savannah. I am in the Air Force. I have my commercial pilot's license, single engine sea and land, and I just got hired recently to fly the F-35 for Montgomery, Alabama. So I'm really stoked about that. I'm currently in A&P school while I wait for my training dates, and then I'll be shipped off and learn how to become a fighter pilot.
Which is insane. That's the Red Tails, right?
It is the Red Tails, the Tuskegee Airmen. The legacy lives on.
That's so cool. Awesome. We're gonna talk about that more in a second. Carolyn, I hinted at it. Over your shoulder, you got some big ace planes over your shoulder there, but you're a first officer. Tell us what can you tell us about what you do?
Well, I came up through the ranks by getting all of my ratings the good old-fashioned way, just on my own. working 2 jobs and going to college. And I started the Colorado chapter of Women in Aviation. And I worked in the regionals for a while, for about a decade to be exact. And I finally got my dream job with Frontier. And I've been there almost 7 years now and living the dream.
That's amazing. Totally jealous. Jenn,
Yes.
you're the one telling us all what to do. That's my little segue. Tell us about who you are.
So I'm Jenn. I'm from Georgia, as you can tell. Go Dogs. I live in Houston. I'm a air traffic controller at Houston Center. I've been there for almost 6 years now, and I certified over 3 years ago now. So it's an amazing job. Even through COVID, we've adjusted very well, and traffic's all down, but I love my job. Yeah, we'll talk more about that, I guess.
Rock on. And so I think one of the things that I wanted to chat about first was just there I am. Because people gotta see me. That's what this is all about. Just kidding. No one's here to see me tonight. All right. So one of the things I wanted to ask first is we and Carolyn, you hinted at it a little bit, right? Like it's a bit of a tough slog to aviation as a career. And I'm wondering if the three of you could just talk real briefly about what inspired you to get started in aviation. No, because I think we all know it's not easy to get into aviation as a career path. So despite that, what was the inspiration? I don't know, Carolyn, if you want to start.
Sure. I think I always wanted to be a pilot. Everyone always says that, but my mom confirms that. I remember being on a flight to Kansas to visit my grandmother, and that was back in the days when they didn't close the cockpit doors. And I was sitting there in the back of the airplane, glancing up the aisle to the pilots and everything that was going on up there the entire time with the doors open. I know, crazy. And I remember thinking, holy cow, like that was just everything. And I was completely enamored. And I guess I had forgotten that. And I always said, I'm going to go be a pilot. And I didn't know what that even meant. So I just made a list one day of all the things that I wanted to do in my life. I think it was like 18 or something. And getting my private pilot's license was one of them. So I took an intro flight at the local airfield, which happened to be Centennial Airport at the time, and here in Denver, Colorado. And I was totally hooked. And it's like everything just kind of fell into place. I had to work for it. I had to find opportunities. But it's funny that when you start on that journey and you start paying attention to all of these things, the things kind of start showing up, and you find those opportunities, they find you, and all of a sudden you're at Frontier Airlines. Which is the simplistic way of saying it, but
makes sense to me. Jenn, can I ask you the same question? Like, what's the path for you as an air traffic controller?
It's definitely very difficult. I think there's only like 15,000 controllers with the FAA. My grandpa was a B-17 pilot in World War II, and
Awesome.
His story and how he survived being shot down and prisoner of war just still stick to me to this day. But like, he used to take my mom and my uncles to the local airport in Massachusetts to watch planes land and take off. And my mom continued that tradition with me and my siblings at Moody Air Force Base in Valdosta, Georgia. That's where I'm from. So we would watch F-16s and C-130s do touch and goes. And I flew alone a lot as a kid, kind of like what Carolyn said, looking up at the cockpit, just being enamored by what was going on. And me and my brother, were obsessed with Top Gun. We were going to be fighter pilots together. And now we're both controllers. He's at Atlanta Center. I'm here at Houston Center. And then the struggle as far as getting hired, it took me 11 applications and 4 years to finally get hired. So
Whoa.
To say I came this close to giving up. I was 30 years old when I started the FAA Academy, and most people don't know that you have to be 31 before you're hired and start the academy. So I barely made it, and I have some coworkers that are like 22 and 23 years old. Like I couldn't even imagine having that much responsibility at that age. There's no way I would have made it. So yeah, I think in general, aviation is definitely very trying. I went through a furlough in 2013, you know, because like the government budget and the shutdowns and stuff like that, my job just wasn't needed, and I had to go back to serving tables. And that was the year before I got hired, and I went back to school to pursue my plan B, because I'm like, it's just not going to happen for me. I was 29. I'm like, it's just not going to happen. And I almost gave up, and I applied one more time, and then sure enough, that's when I got hired. So, and I'm sure a lot of pilots, especially this year with being, you know, a lot of pilots and flight attendants and just airline workers in general have been furloughed because of COVID. And I know what that struggle is. So just keep pushing is my advice. So
that's amazing. By the way, a lot of people in the chat, and I want to hear Savannah talk about this too, but a lot of people in the chat are talking about how amazing it is that no one in this room has given up. I would like to point out I have given up a number of times in my life, so that's a bad joke. But anyway, so I'm too old to be an air traffic controller. I am also too old to be on the fighter track. Savannah, can you give us your take on all that?
Yeah, so for me, aviation was always in my life, and it was kind of my destiny from the beginning, but I never wanted it. And I like telling my story because I think a lot of people think it's too late for them. And you hear about people who dreamed about being pilots since they were little. But for me, I absolutely hated flying. My dad was an F-16 pilot, and he currently flies for United, which is why I wear an F-16 around my neck. But I finally decided after I had enlisted in the Air Force that, you know, I was going to give flying one more shot, and I wanted to do it for myself. And after I started flying lessons when I graduated college, I was absolutely hooked, and I knew that that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I'm really grateful that I was able to explore other options before going down the pilot track, because it is so involved and it is so trying that I had all this prior experience knowing that I could get through hard things. And so I knew I could apply that determination and everything I'd learned from the military on this track. And I knew that I wanted to be a pilot for the military. And when I began going down that path, it was very hard. You have to be really persistent, to be really resilient, and there's a lot of rejection. You can put together the most beautiful packet and have the highest scores and get rejected and not know why. And sometimes you think, maybe I'm just not cut out for it. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I can't compete with all these other guys. Like, they're offering way more than I can give. But what I've seen from my interview process is that the people who stick with it and the people you see at each interview with you, rushing all the units like one by one, if they're qualified, they get picked up. And so it's really just showing your resilience. How bad do you want it? Because once you get on that fighter pilot track, it doesn't get easier. So if you can't make it through the initial rejection and all the hard work it gets to get hired, then you're not going to make it through to the end. So I think it's a great trying. It's good to be tried in your early stages of being a pilot, so you build that resiliency, so you're able to tackle any challenge in the future.
So I'm sensing a theme here then. The theme is don't give up, because it's hard. And actually, I was thinking about this a little bit. Where am I? Oh goodness. See, I told you guys I'd be fat-fingered. I almost ended the show just there. Whoa.
Oh, no.
That would have been bad. So one of the things that I was thinking about today, preparing for this, right? Because I do a little bit of my research on everybody, and I was thinking, you know, there are all these moments in my life where I was like good at something. Like maybe you get to like, I'm 80%, 70%. I'm in the top 30% of the people that do X, Y, Z. And I could have done that, but I didn't want it bad enough. And what I'm hearing from the three of you is like, hey, it's that last 30%, right? It's that like push. I don't know. It was just something that like popped in my head as I was like researching the careers you all have, right? Is like, I think sometimes we sit there, especially those of us in our in our late 30s who are depressed with our kids at home all day right now. But like the idea of like, oh, like I could have been a concert trombonist, but I didn't want that. I didn't push. I didn't work at. I didn't actually want. I mean, I maybe I could have. I don't know. Anyway, so okay, so work hard. Step 1, work hard. Step 2, I'm wondering if we could dig in that a little bit more. Like, is there the resilience is there, obviously, with the three of you, but was there a specific challenge that you had to work through to overcome? I mean, obviously, Jenn kind of touched on. Sorry, Carolyn's like, yep, but like Jenn touched on it, like, for instance, like she had like furloughs and all this stuff. Like, is there stuff? Aviation just seems like, and it feels weird to say it in a panel with women in aviation, but aviation is like a cruel mistress, right? Like it's like so unforgiving. I don't know. I'm talking too much. Someone talk. Someone go.
No, those are great points. Those are great points that you're making, Ryan. And what's funny is to hear Jenn talk. That resonates so much with me. All of us, everybody has their challenges in aviation, and you're right. It's this club that we all love, but it puts us through the ringer essentially at times. But yet we love it so much. That's kind of what keeps us going. And I found myself, working 2 jobs, going to college. That was only the beginning of it. Then you get into your flying, whatever that is, as your first job. I started out flying Beech 1900s for Air Midwest, which we used to fly the old U.S. Airways Beech 1900s, the blue tops. And that was hard because I went from flying a Seneca 2 on the weekends to a Part 121 high performance twin turbine aircraft flying passengers around. And it was do or die. And it was studying while you're in the shower, literally, like your flashcards and your memory items, and studying till you go to bed at midnight and starting to study when you wake up at 4 a.m. And that's the level of dedication that some of these things that we really want badly require. And you go through that, and then you get into your first regional or whatever the step is. That was my path. Got into the regional in the CRJs after the Beech 1900s for about a year. And then it's commuting, and it's all kinds of different challenges. And you are delayed because you're based in Chicago, and the last flight just got pushed to Denver, which is where I live, 10 minutes ago. So now you're sleeping in a crew room couch or finding yourself somewhere to go to catch the 0550 back to Denver the next morning, and on it goes. And so to Jenn's point, and I commend her, Jenn, I commend you for not giving up, because I know exactly how that feels, and that's way to go.
Thank you.
I remember thinking, boy, I don't know if I'm going to make this, because after, almost 10 years and doing this and the other thing, we all have our breaking points, and you really come to question yourself as to why am I doing this? And you have to dig deep and have those reasons at times, whatever they are, to get you through. And what I found, to your point, Ryan, is that when you do push through that, that's the breakthrough. That's when you make it. Because I was so close to giving up on this whole business, and I was going to go be a lawyer or something else. I mean, forget it, with all this work, but I love to fly just like all of us. And it was when I pushed through that last final bit, just like when Jenn, applied for the however many at the time, that's when it happened. And I feel like, to your point, Ryan, you're absolutely onto something, that if you reach that point, you know that you're just about to make it.
Well, we'll see what happens for me, but
I believe that for you as well as all of
thanks.
us.
Thanks so much. See, I knew I was going to get motivated tonight. First of all, well, Savannah's already been here. She can come on again. But Jenn, Carolyn, you guys got to be on the show. Like, I feel like we could do a whole show on just each of your experience, right? Like, everyone on the chat's like, I got all these questions for air traffic control.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I got all these questions for airline pilots, right? Like, everyone has all these questions for you. But so let's do that. Well, that would be rad. One of the things I'm wondering then is, so in terms of pushing through that, like now, like if you had advice to, and Carolyn, you kind of touched on this, but Savannah and Jen obviously open up to you as well. Like if you had advice to yourself 10 years ago, what would that advice be?
I mean, for me, it would be to just never give up, you know, like have that dream, set a goal, set many goals to get to that goal, and just never give up. And like, yes, it took forever to get hired, but, that seemed like it was the most difficult thing, but the most difficult thing was training. I always say it was the worst 2 years of my life, just because I really just had to hunker down and get, you know, be in a mental space to where I can handle just getting beat up every day by pilots and trainers and weather, because, you know, we get that here in Houston. So, you know, there was a couple times in training where I was like, I don't know if this is meant for me, because I don't love this at the moment. And I didn't love it because I wasn't good at it yet. And that's hard for me mentally to kind of swallow, you know what I mean? But yeah, I would tell myself 10 years ago to just, like, seriously never give up. I know that sounds so cheesy, but yeah, I mean, when you're super persistent, I mean, something's got to give, something, you know what I'm saying? You know, and just stay positive as much as possible, and have a good support system. Like I wouldn't have made it without my mom and my family and my close friends. Like, they were always there for me. So, and still are.
Savannah, what about you? 10 years ago? Well, 10 years ago, you were a kid.
Yeah, I was in high school.
But that's actually a good place. That's actually a good place to start, right? I mean, like, I think about like a slight little diversion. Like, high school me did not even think that any of this was possible.
No,
right?
Not at all. And that's right. I think that looking back on myself prior to aviation, a big reason why I always hated it and I didn't want to get into it was because I didn't think that I had what it took to do it. And I remember when I decided to enlist in the Air Force, I was 18, and nobody except for my dad thought that I was capable. They'd always say, you know, you're too weak, you're too this, like, you can't do it. And I used to let other people's opinions really affect me and how I viewed myself. And it was after going through that suck, like, I like saying embrace the suck. It's supposed to be hard. And I think a lot of us get really wrapped up in the fact that, oh, this looks so easy for this person. Like, it's meant for them. I'm struggling, so I shouldn't do it. But what we don't realize is that our biggest growth is on the other side of that struggle. I just read a book called The Talent Code, and it's very good. And it really gets down to the point where, you know, we shouldn't compliment people on being talented. Talent is just some word that doesn't really mean much. Look at all the hard work, the dedication, the studying, everything that it takes to get to where you are. And that preparation is what makes you good and what makes you successful in the end. So we shouldn't rely on, you know, things that come naturally to us, because if you really want it, you can put in the work. You might have to put in more work, but in the end, you're going to be more prepared than that person that just rides on their natural ability. So I think I would say, you know, if I found something that was hard, but I truly, really wanted it, that I should just stick to my guns, do whatever it takes to get there. And it's possible. I think we really limit our potential, and our minds are incredible in what we're capable of doing. So I get messages all the time from people saying, I don't think I can do this. Like, how do I do this? And I think it's just start, find a mentor, find someone that's been where you want to go, get all the advice you can get, but just put in the work, the repetition, all the blood, sweat, and tears, and you will get there.
I think I keep hitting the wrong button. Someday I'll figure out that button and I'll get there. No, that's true. The thing you said that resonated with me the most was the whole idea, like, if it was easy, anyone could do it, right? And the embrace the suck thing. I was training with paramotor pilots briefly in Oshkosh 2019, and they were like, I was like, what's your biggest advice? They're like, embrace the suck, bro. Like, they're, they're super cool. But like, they're like, hey, you're going to be really bad at this to start. Right. You got to be cool with that and know that it's supposed to be hard. Before, Carolyn, I want to hear your advice, but I just got to call something out that's kind of cool that's happening right now in the chat. Savannah's dad, Bob, and Brian Turner from Just Plain Silly just made huge super chat donations. And, of course, I'm going to donate those to the Women in Aviation chapter So that, guys, if that's something you want to do, anything that is donated or contributed to the channel tonight will go to the Women in Aviation channels or channels.
Thanks, Dad. Love you.
Bob's awesome. But I want to have your dad on the show sometime.
I know.
And Bryon, like, he's a jokester, but look at his heart. His heart's so big. So thank you, Bryon, for that. That's really, really generous. Okay, Carolyn, sorry for the diversion. You'll find that I do that a lot. Carolyn, what about you 10 years ago? What's you 10 years ago? What would you say to yourself?
Boy, 10 years ago, I feel like 10 years ago I had a ton of gumption and a lot of grit. And I feel like that was prior to when I really needed the advice. So, but I think 10 years ago, I would say, keep your eye on your goal. And I feel like it's so easy to just say, keep your eye on your goal. But I mean, like, have tangible things that you can pay attention to, that you can look at. Like, I know this sounds really cheesy, but write it down, keep it in your wallet, put it on your mirror, whatever it is. Remember your why, because it will get hard. And that's when you really are tested, like Savannah was saying. And if you have something that you can fall back on, which are your own words, your own reasons for your motivation, then it won't be easy, but it will be helpful. And I think I would also say, instead of looking at the big picture, take one step at a time and look at right now, and look at the next 5 minutes, and then the evening, and then the next day. If you look at how am I ever going to get to my ultimate destination, I find that to be fairly demotivating sometimes. And I think a lot of people do. So if you just say, okay, I'm just going to do this today, and I'm going to have a positive attitude and remember my why, and I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I said that simplistically at the beginning when I kind of introduced myself, that, all of a sudden everything just happened. But that's how it happens, I think, is that you put that foot in front of the other, and before you know it, you have this entire compilation of one foot in front of the other, and you wind up making it to wherever you desired to go. And you look back and say, wow, had I thought about this in the big picture way, I don't know that I could have ingested all of it at once. And maybe sometimes that's why we have to take it one step at a time, so that we can evolve into the person and whatever it is that we're trying to do to be that and have that.
I feel like we should be, well, we are I was going to say, I feel like we should be recording this so we could write a book about it afterwards, but we are recording it. I want to say, there's some things happening in the chat I want to point out too. Joan says, let me move that so it's in the right place. There we go. It took till I was 46 before I got my private. Wish I had the opportunity when I was younger. That's why this is so special. Girls need to know they can do this. I mean, yeah. Like, and this is where Savannah got me to cry a couple weeks ago. Like, we were talking about my daughters, and I was like, hey, like,
Absolutely.
how do I like show them? And like, you very simplistically, I think we're just like, just show them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but yeah, I think it's like, except for, I mean, I guess, Joan, you and I can't go be air traffic controllers or fighter pilots. We've aged out of that, Joan. But we can do the rest of it, right? You can just like keep going and keep pushing. So anyway, before we get to my next question, there's kind of a cool thing happening tonight. Connie in the chat, Constance McCorkle, is going to help me out. She's part of the this Women in Aviation chapter here in southeastern Wisconsin, and they are giving away tonight some intro flights for people who want to take that first step flying. There's a caveat. You probably want to live in Wisconsin to take advantage of it. So if you guys are from the Wisconsin area and you want to try to get an intro flight, just throw like intro me or something in the chat so Constance can see who's available to take advantage of that, and then she'll randomly select 2 people to get intro flights, which would be awesome. Because if you're thinking about it, you got to do it. You got to do it. Anyway, enough with the sales pitch. But no, seriously, if you're in the Wisconsin area, that's super generous of them to be giving those away. I think it's Spring City Aviation in in the Milwaukee area. So anyway, okay. So now here's what I want to do. I was going to open it up to some questions because people have all these questions for you. And I have one. Where's my phone? I have one that came in. This is for Jenn. Let me find it here. No, it's going to be great. It's good. Because it's... All right, so this is from Bryon on Facebook.
Okay.
And Bryon said, hey, this is a really cool cross-section of aviation. I'm curious how much computerized decision support air traffic controllers get. That's part one. So if we want, we can take it in steps, but let's start there.
Okay. So I am a center controller, so I sit in front of a radar screen. I don't see the planes I talk to or control. And either on our right or our left of the screen, we have what's called an EDST, and I don't even remember what it stands for anymore. But it's like an electronic display of each flight, call sign, altitude, squawk code, route, I can look up the winds at any altitude. It projects where planes are going to be based on the filed airspeed. So let's say somebody filed 350, but they have 100 knot tailwind. Well, it takes a little bit longer for that computer to catch up. So that's why the eyes are always number one. So yeah,
I'd love 100 knot tailwind.
The EDST helps us project where planes are going to be, and if two at 35 are coming together, we'll get a red alert, or that's less than 5 miles, because 5 miles is what we need right at the same altitude. And then if they're going to be within 6 to 12 miles, we'll get a yellow alert. We get orange if they're going to fly through active military airspace. So like, obviously work close to the Gulf of Mexico, and a lot of aircraft want to take shortcuts over the Gulf, but 90% of the time they can't because the warning areas are always hot, up to like 60,000 feet. So
because people like Savannah are there making
doing
things
their thing
blow up.
Yeah, sure. I have no idea what they do out there. So yeah, we do have that tool. We actually have a lot of tools. It always kind of irks me when people are like, air traffic system is so outdated. I'm like, yeah, there's some things that could be better, but overall, like, it's what our system does is pretty amazing in my opinion.
So here's the second part of the question. So thank you for answering that. And that's actually, I didn't know
I'll
that.
second that.
Oh my goodness, I hit it again. Someone in the chat earlier said, Ryan, you would be a horrible air traffic controller because you keep hitting the wrong buttons. And that is true.
Yeah.
So
we type incredibly fast, by the way.
Well, I can type fast, but not with a lot of accuracy, apparently. Okay, here's the second part of his question. So that's really interesting. That there's a fair, I think, to your point, people don't realize. I didn't realize there's that much automation assistance or computerized assistance with you. Here's the funnier part. He said, "Do you really call it pushing tin per the 1990s flop starring Billy Bob Thornton, John Cusack, and Angelina Jolie?"
It's funny you say this because I think I think pilots can relate to this. It takes a special breed of person to do our job, and sarcasm and humor are at the top of the list. Like, I've noticed that the more sarcastic somebody is, the better controller they are. Well, my coworkers have been on this pushing 10 like binge. They're like, we got to get together and watch it. I'm like, well, we can't because of COVID, and that's all they talk about recently is watching pushing 10. And then, but we don't really say pushing 10 though, as far as like working planes. Like we usually say we're pumping some J's, which is ridiculous. Like pumping jets, pumping J's, pushing some 10. We're ridiculous. We have a fun time with it. So, my nickname is Jenn the Jammer. They call me JJ, Jenn the Jammer sometimes. So they always give me a hard time. I love it. If they weren't giving me a hard time, that would be very, very bad.
Yeah, well, and that was the question. The other question I saw about this is you segued this for me perfectly, actually. So one of the other questions we got, on there in terms of culture, company culture and stuff, and you said like, hey, if they're not giving me a hard time, I'd be worried. This question might be good for Carolyn and Savannah, but Savannah, it was actually someone that had asked about, because you're already in the military now, and they're asking like, is the culture of the military what we see in movies, right? Like, is it? I'm paraphrasing the question, but it was, hey, like, what is it like? What is it like to be in the military right now? Is it like super hardcore like I see in the movies? And then two, the second part is like a woman in the military right now. What's that like?
Well, I would say it can be like the movies. It probably depends on which movie. As in intensity, it really depends on what you're doing, what your specific job is. Of course, we have boot camp, and it might be what you picture in the movies with everyone yelling at you. You're doing whatever they say, drop to your face, push-ups, lots of physical fitness, yelling. But once you get out of those initial training stages, especially in the National Guard, it's relatively friendly and a really nice working environment. I'm getting ready mentally and physically for all the training I'm going to be going through for pilot training, which is going to be the most intense training that I'll ever go through. Part of that is SEER school. And if you guys know what that is, that's survival training where you become a prisoner of war. You have to live off the land, kill a bunny and eat it. And so it's just like getting you ready for combat situations, which I'm really excited for. But with being a woman in the military, of course, that'll obviously come with its challenges. But I've been enlisted for about 9 years now, and I get a lot of girls who message me who are really interested in being in the military, but they're scared because of preconceived notions, or they're just not sure like how they would fit in that environment. But what I can say is that, of course, there's going to be negative things, and that's just with any job. But I found that I've had the most amazing support group, and I've gained so many brothers and father figures and grandfather figures who have uplifted me and supported me, and I can't see my life without being in uniform and serving my country with my brothers and my sisters beside me. So I encourage anyone to check it out. Any girl, like, you're welcome there. There's a space for you, and you can make your own space too. Don't be scared, be confident, and just like make room. And they're really accepting, and it's getting better with each and every year, with each and every female that goes through and adds to our lovely family. So everyone is welcome.
Rock on. I mean, is that, I know the airlines probably similar, maybe preconceived notions, although I don't know how many bunnies you've killed at work, Carolyn, but but what was it like? What's that culture like for you in the airlines right now?
Well, in the airline, and I think I may have inadvertently killed a red-tailed hawk in like Cincinnati or somewhere upon landing. You're in the flare and you're thinking, did you just see that? Yep, just keep your eyes on the runway and on the rollout. On the post-flight, we'll hopefully look and see that we did not, but
did you eat it?
It happens. But I think that for me, no.
Sorry.
No.
Continue.
Savannah's got that on me for sure. So, but as far as culture in the airlines, I mean, speaking about Frontier has an amazing culture. That's why I wanted to be there so badly, because I had a lot of people that I had done flight training with and friends in aviation who worked at Frontier, and they had nothing but good things to say about it. And now being there as a female in aviation and just a pilot in aviation, I mean, I work with some of the best people I've ever met in my life, just amazingly, qualified, talented aviation professionals, hardworking, dedicated folks that are fun and pleasant to work with, who are safe, who know what they're doing, and they just make it an absolute pleasure to go to work. I mean, I always say that I feel like the path that I took is not just a job or a career. It's kind of a lifestyle, and it takes over after a while, and it becomes part of who you are. And I really like that, because I really like the people that I work with, and Frontier as a company. I mean, we have really been making some great strides in our company's history, and we're growing. And I'm really optimistic about how things are going in the future for Frontier. And knowing that I get to work with some of the best aviation professionals in the industry is a huge bonus. I love going to work.
So, and by the way, the answers you've all given, I want to bring up this comment here, hitting the right button. There we go. All right, I can work it. By the time we're done with the stream, I'm going to have this mastered. Marty made this kind of great comment here. He says, why aren't all three of these guests in the recruitment section of your particular fields? I mean, maybe you are. You kind of are. So far, I want to be an airline pilot, a military pilot, and an air traffic controller. Where do I sign?
That's great.
So, yeah, hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully you are. I mean, you're inspiring me tonight for sure. Absolutely. And everyone else, if
I am part of the Frontier Airlines hiring team, and I actively recruit pilots at aviation events. I go to Women in Aviation every year with Frontier, and I also conduct interviews. So I am passionate about Frontier and helping others in their journey. I mentor still with Women in Aviation. I also belong to the Mile High Flight Program, which is a branch of Tuskegee Airmen and their legacy. And I'm really passionate about helping people with their dreams and aspirations in aviation. So,
rock on. Okay, so I'm going to switch it up a little bit. And folks, by the way, this hour is going by super quickly. So if you have questions you want to get in, like throw them in the chat. And don't forget, I guess I'd be a bad host if I didn't. Bam, you can Venmo some money to WAI.se Wisconsin. It's like, where is it, right? It's over here.
Like, I don't know where it is.
It's over here. That's their chapter's Venmo account, but you can send donations there. And again, any chats that come in, I'll throw those in there too at the end of the stream tonight. But of course, I probably should leave it up so people can write it down. But now I lost my train of thought. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about if you weren't so we've got pilots, air traffic controller. Everyone's got a weird connection to fighter pilots and Tuskegee and stuff, which is pretty cool. But if you weren't pilots, right? Like, do you think this same advice can apply? Like, what would you be doing? I don't know. Savannah be like beating people up based on her Instagram.
I would, actually. I just came from training, so I'm still sweaty and stuff. But yeah, I think the same advice definitely applies. I love fighting in the air and on the ground, so I'm currently training as a fighter, Muay Thai.
How many times
MMA.
did you rehearse that? That's the best. Did you say that in your interview?
I practice in my head every day. I'm like,
sorry, I'm not poking fun. It just like that was like scripted. That was like really well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But it's true, like that dedication, motivation. I just had a really hard training session tonight, and I just felt like, man, I suck. Like, have I ever done this before? Why am I here? But then you just remember, like, it's exciting because knowing that you're gonna get better, like, and that if I keep coming and I come back tomorrow and I put in the work, it's just gonna get better and better. And this is the moment where you really feel like you're not doing good, you're not good enough, where a lot of people quit. And that's what failing is. Failing isn't doing bad. Failing is not doing it ever again. So I think having a fighter mentality, whether you're a pilot or a fighter or, a teacher or whatever you are, just like remembering that the hard is good, to embrace it, use your obstacles to propel you in your future, and you're going to succeed. And I think it's so exciting when things suck and when things are hard and challenging, because that's where your growth comes from. And you should really embrace that. And it gets me really amped.
I was going to say, I just think this year, that's what I keep telling myself about this year, right? It's like this year was hard. It's been really hard. I wrote a little script about it that I might turn into a video for the channel. And I was like, wow, like this is really hard, but separately, like, whoa, like the amount of like personal growth I've done in times of adversity, right? Like that's, I don't know, every good movie script, right? What's the second act? You take your character, first act, you put him in a tree. Second act, you throw stuff at them. And the third act, you let them out of the tree, right? Well, we're all in the second act. Whenever we're in the second act of our lives, which probably happens a lot, right? That's when cool things happen. No one would watch a movie if nothing bad happened. Anyway. Sorry. Just movie nerd stuff over here. Okay, so there was a question here. Someone had asked a question for Jenn, and I can't find it now in the chat. If you had a question for Jenn, bring it back up. It was something about. Well, here's a question. Well, have Carolyn and Jenn, have you guys talked on the radio to each other? You had to have by now, right?
Maybe.
You're like, I talked
maybe
to a million
pre-COVID. We don't see too many Frontier flights anymore. I know right before Corona hit, we started seeing them in and out of Lafayette, which was weird and random. I think we get a couple of flights in and out of IH now. Frontier, I feel like Frontier Flight 71 is, I think, is the call sign. Some go into New Orleans and out of New Orleans as well. So there might have been a time where we've heard each other on frequency, didn't know it. So.
Here's a random question for Carolyn, because it's a frontier question. What's your favorite Frontier tail?
I'd have to say Steve the Eagle, because it's a 321, an Airbus 321. And I flew that into LaGuardia, and we were landing east. And as you come in on the visual for that, you basically, you've got the airport kind of off the left wing there, and you come in around making left base for that runway, and you're flying over the Hudson River. And just before you make the turn for short final, you got to pay attention to what you're doing. But I had a moment to look down the river and see the skyline of Manhattan and New York City. And it was super surreal. It was just a beautiful day, this amazingly gorgeous airplane with this regal eagle on the tail. And I'm doing my post-flight walk around in New York City, just in awe. So I think Steve the Eagle is probably my favorite.
Rock on. Marty, who's in the chat, his dad just retired, but he was saying Marty the Marmot. He says the correct answer is Marty the Marmot, Carolyn. Oh, I put that in the wrong part of the screen there. All caps, too. Fighting.
Indeed.
Fighting. Okay, the question for Jenn came back up.
Okay.
Let me pull you up here. You ready? Here you go.
I'm ready.
It's not going to be that hard. It's not going to be that hard. Fly Chucky Fly asked, what sectors do you usually run? We fly out of, looks like Charlie Lima Lima.
Oh, call station. Yeah, I depending on what kind of airplane he flies, I work Humble Lufkin would be the sector. It's actually two sectors, but we never split it because it would be a disaster if we did. Like, not literally, but it would be a nightmare.
Wait, whoa, everyone calm down.
It's like, it's kind of, the sector itself is kind of shaped like a funnel, and the base is over Houston, and then it kind of filters out north. So we work north departures. So the frequency would be 134.8 if you're 23 and below. And then above that is 3277. I had to think about it for a second. I've been saying these frequencies for years. But yeah, it's just east of College Station, that sector. So like Leona, Lufkin, and Humble and Hobby are all in that sector. Of course, my airspace is above approaches airspace at that one point, and then it drops off, and I do surface to 23. So hopefully, and then the sector east of there is called Dayzetta Woodville, which is Dayzetta is low, and then Woodville is high. That's like, we call that the moneymaker, because that's where we sequence the arrivals that come into the Houston terminal area. And then further east of that is Polk, Alex, and Nestler. And Polk is the ultra low, and then Alex is 24 to 34, and then Nestler is the ultra high, which is 35 and above. And that sector could get kind of quirky because you run out of altitudes really quick. And depending if it's a weather day or a bad ride day, you got to get really creative at keeping airplanes separated. But that goes as far east as Natchez, Mississippi. So it's a lot of airspace. But we don't usually all work it combined. Like on the mid, you would. But depending on how busy it is, you split them up. Like pre-COVID, on a really busy like Friday afternoon, we're probably running 6, maybe 7 total, and we only have 8 in my area. But, you know, during the busy period now, during COVID, I work night shifts. So I work 2:30 to 10:30 p.m. We always get the departure push, like right as we're like getting into work, and we're normally on 4 or 5 scopes or sectors. So
rock on. And there's a no, that I think so. I think here's the other one that's kind of funny. I don't know how up you are on your aviation YouTubers, but people are asking now, or asking you to harass Josh Flowers. I don't know if he's ever. That's Aviation 101. You should harass him, I guess, if he's ever on frequency with you. But I don't think he would necessarily be talking to you. I don't know, based on, because he's like a 172 pilot. Do you ever talking to like?
Oh yeah, I talked to 172s, Cessna, you know, Bonanza, Houston Center. We're looking for flight following, you know, like all the time. I work arrivals in and out of College Station, Lufkin. I work. Yeah, I mean, I think the other night I had 3 aircraft on 3 different approaches. So in one sector.
Okay, so you're working it.
Yeah.
So
if
on
you
top
ever
of
get like normal aircraft or the big guys, whatever you want to call them.
The big guys, so. The big gals.
Yeah. Gals, yeah.
when Carolyn's flying through with her giant Airbus. So
321.
So when you've got, so here's the thing, when November 80991 comes up on frequency, people in the chat are asking you to make his life difficult. Is that legal? Can we ask you to do that? Probably not legal.
No.
Just razz him, say, hey.
That call sign doesn't sound familiar, but I'll try to remember and be like, I will probably say something along the lines of like, I'm supposed to give you a hard time, but I'll just be nice.
Say SuperAero said I'm supposed to give you the hard time. All right.
Yeah.
Fly Chucky Fly, by the way, he says we fly, I'll just put it on the screen, LCH 5,000 to 9,000. So maybe you guys will talk to each other.
Yeah,
sometime.
Maybe.
That's cool. We made a little connection.
Yeah.
A little aviation connection here. Okay, so we're almost out of time, and I'm supposed to do. Well, first of all, everybody, again, don't forget. Oh, that's Fly Chucky. There we go. You can donate to the chapter, and also these 3 women from all over the country doing this for a local Wisconsin chapter is just kind of amazing. To separately kind of dawned on me. But we play this game on the show called Short Final, and I have no idea how we're going to play it with 3 people. But the way the game... Savannah remembers this. So the
fun.
way that... I don't even know if I'm not going to hit a timer or anything, because there's 3 of you, and it's going to be mayhem. But basically, we just ask a bunch of, like, one simple response questions. There are no points. There's not anything... You can't really win. But you can just shout out... You just shout out your answers. Are you into it?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Wait. Lori says, come on, Dembro, ask my question before. Okay, wait. Lori, where's your question? Oh, okay. Very funny. 1 second. We have to ask this question for Lori because she's harassing me in the chat, and then we'll play the game. She says, Jen, has anyone ever... Whoop, that's not you. Has anyone ever said, Houston, we have a problem?
Maybe as a joke.
Okay.
Oh man. I'm glad. I mean, when I have an emergency, trust me, I know it, and I can hear it in the pilot's voice. But I don't think I've actually ever had a pilot say, "Houston, we have a problem." I would laugh if they did.
Okay. So
Some
that's what
might say. Here's a phone number to call.
Right? Yeah.
All right, let's play Short Final. And guys and gals, if you have any last questions for these awesome ladies, so by the way, you should. I wish you could see the chat, or maybe you can see the chat. So much love in the chat right now, Joan and Jacqueline. Just so many people really pumped to have you on the show. All right, so here we go. Short Final. Let's do it. I'm just gonna put on some dramatic music.
Oh gosh.
You can't. Well, maybe you'll be able to hear it. All right, here we go. So just as you shout it out whenever you want. First of all, favorite civilian aircraft you've ever flown?
Piper Cherokee 6.
Carolyn's flown like 100 million airplanes, so it's hard for
Seneca
her.
2.
Seneca 2. Jen, favorite one
I'm
to
not a
talk to?
pilot.
Favorite one to talk to?
Oh, well, it's never going to be a turboprop or piston because they're too slow. Favorite one to talk to? A 7.8.
All right.
A 787.
Okay, what about so I'll amend this for Jen, but so for Savannah and Carolyn, favorite airport you've ever landed at?
Summerlin Key.
LaGuardia.
And favorite airport to send people into, Jen?
I would have to say IAH just because, you know, we get a lot of arrivals and it's fun to sequence them. Yep.
I have one for what's your least favorite airplane?
Oh, God. Oh, for me, it'd probably be a flotation or Airbus 321 that isn't climbing very well. Yeah, we get those a lot in the summer, so that's my answer.
What heavy? We got lots of fuel.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Ooh.
At least with the RJ2, I know that, you know,
Is
I
there
can work
such a
around
thing as
that.
least favorite?
What? Wait, what? Carolyn, what's your least favorite airplane?
I was like, is there such a thing as a least favorite airplane? I mean,
What kind of question is that?
I'm gonna go with no.
No, you just refuse to answer. I don't know.
No,
I flew a really
there
ratty.
is no least favorite.
Did it again. Oh, hit that button again. I flew like a really
Oh my
ratty Cherokee 140 once. I never want to fly in that thing again. Come on, there's got to be something.
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know, maybe an old Cessna 172 or 152 or so. It's been so long since I flew one of those, but I mean, maybe one of the old, you know, doesn't have all the, I don't know. I'm so used to going fast and high, and I mean, it's been a while, so maybe a CRJ 200.
There you go. There you go. Fighting words, Savannah.
They're
Now
a
you
dog
can.
flying at the altitude.
Pedal faster.
Savannah, what about you? Now's your chance to throw some
I
throw some shade.
can't. Dude, I gotta be kind, man. Like, I can't even think of one.
Nah, just be like, oh, like a 4th gen fighter.
I don't want to go down that hole.
What about like you
I
want
love
to
it.
talk some smack to like the Navy or something? She's not taking the bait. She's not taking the bait, folks.
Gotta hold strong, man.
I appreciate it. Okay, so before we wrap up, I guess like right on the edge of everyone's making fun of me for the button pressing. It's been really bad, and I apologize, but you guys know what the outro will look like. So before we wrap up, and we've talked about like advice to yourself 10 years ago. We've talked about like the challenges that you faced and the perseverance. I'm trying to think of like how to summarize it, right? Like if you had to give like a 2-word answer, right? Is it like, don't give up, it's gonna suck, it's worth it? Like how would you answer that? Because I see here on the screen, right? I've got like 3 amazing role models. Not just, I mean, Savannah, I talked on the last episode about how I thought she was a great role model for my daughters, but honestly, you're like, the 3 of you are great role models for me. Like, never mind my little daughters, right? Like, you're accomplishing so much. I don't know. What would you, if you had to just crystallize it down as a summary, like, where would you take it?
I think something important to mention is that we're all on our own individual paths, and it's important to try not to compare yourself to somebody else's path, because we're all on our own path, and it might look like theirs or it might not, and that's okay either way, because you just run your own race, stay in your lane, and do your very best, and that will ultimately, if you stay the course, ensure success.
We can go right to left. I don't know if Savannah, if you want to give it a go. Everyone's so polite.
Yeah, I love everything she just said. And like a big thing for me, which was touched on earlier, is to remember your why. I think we do get caught up in the whole game of it all and trying to chase these dreams. But in the hardest moments, in the moments where you don't feel good enough, where you feel like it's too hard, where you just can't take it all on your shoulders and bear the burden, just like recentering and remembering, why am I doing this? So like during my journey to becoming a fighter pilot, which has only just begun, I often come back to that. Why am I putting myself through this? What's my ultimate goal? And personally for me, I think with it being about others ultimately is what's going to find you the greatest happiness and the greatest success. And so we do these things for ourselves, but in the end, it's ultimately to lift those around us up and to make the world a better place, because we're all in this together. So remembering your why, remembering that it's not all about you, and remembering that you're capable of anything if you put in the work and you never give up.
Whoa.
Whoa. Yeah. And now I got to go after that. No, seriously, Savannah earlier when she said embrace the suck, like I say that all the time. Like I really enjoyed CrossFit because it sucks, but it's a great workout. And physically, like I mentally have to be strong for that. And it really helped me during training with air traffic, because I'm like, if I can sequence 50 arrivals in the IAH, I can back squat 205 and vice versa.
Yeah.
If I can back squat 205, I can smash whatever at work. You know what I mean? And you know, just embrace the suck, keep pushing, and know that our jobs, if it wasn't hard to attain and achieve, it wouldn't be worth it. And two, do you really want somebody who just got 5 months of training to control your airplane, flying 500 miles across the ground? Or, someone with 1 month of training flying an F-35? Like, no. So there's a reason why it sucks, and you have to just push through, and it's like, it's basically like kind of like being forged in fire. You got to come out and just stay strong. It'll make you stronger. And another thing, one day you'll look back at the time when you were struggling. Like for me, 2013, I always say 2013 was the worst year of my life, but I look back at it now and I'm like, I'm so thankful for that year, because if I hadn't have had that struggle, I wouldn't be where I am today. I might have given up. I might have quit. I wouldn't have that drive to like, no, I'm here for a reason. And I went through that for a reason. My mom always reminded me of that. Like, Jenn, you're going through this for a reason. And one day you're going to look back and it's going to all make sense. And she was so right. And I'm so thankful for that. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome.
100%.
I don't even know how, like, there's nothing else to say. This has just been just a really enjoyable night for me. I want to say thank you to the three of you for taking times out of your nights to chat with all of us, our little Sky family. Thank you to everyone watching tonight, and for all the great questions you asked, and for ribbing me pretty aggressively about my fat fingers just then. But this has been really great, and thank you so much for everything you guys are doing to promote aviation. Thanks for inspiring me and all of us, and for helping out with Women in Aviation Southeastern Wisconsin represent. Don't forget, folks. You can always donate to that Venmo thing. Let me find it. There it is. You can Venmo them some cash to help them out. COVID's been hard on membership organizations this year. We know all the membership organizations need help right now, so that's a good way to help them out. And yeah, wow, what a cool night. What a cool night this was. I hope we all get to chat and hang out soon. And thanks. I don't know what else to say. I'm really bad at wrapping up episodes, especially when you drop the truth.
This is a cool deal that you're doing. This is awesome. Thanks so much to everybody. I'm happy to be part of this. I'm very honored.
Yeah,
Me too.
When it gets like inspiring, I just start blabbering on and on and on. So you did a good job when I can't stop yapping. So anyway, thank you for that, and thank you everybody in the chat. What another awesome episode, everybody. That was so cool. definitely like check out if you're not familiar with women in aviation. By the way, the I in the thing does not stand for in. The letters are rearranged in a funny way. You should go look up the website and check it out. It's definitely a cool organization worth supporting. Thanks to Connie for kind of producing this and getting the guests together. I'm really excited to have met them tonight. And next week, holiday special. Special guests, maybe an ugly sweater, a little bit more than that. So, all right, everybody, I can finally hit that button I've been hitting all night. We'll see you next week.